We will take it up from where we left last Thursday. And I don't know, a couple of us who are not in on Thursday, and a few of those who are in on Thursday, I don't see them now. So definitely um, they will be able to benefit from what we say today as a continuation. At the same time, those of you who missed, you'll also benefit from last Thursday where we started this topic on Christian ethics. Christian ethics. A tough one, by the way. This is a tough one. This is a tough one, but we've tried to capsulate it in a way that it comes out, in an easy way to be able to be understood. We only did one principle. I have three principles. I shared this sermon or this message as a sermon in church on Sunday, so maybe one or two people, may be able to anticipate what I'm going to be saying. I'll try to add a few other things so that at least they also benefit a little more. Um, we will do this today, and then we will do a couple of biblical illustrations. We'll do the principles today. Then we'll do a couple of comparative, illustrations to compare different people and how they went about, on these issues next Thursday. But for today, we'll pick it up from last Thursday. But before I do that, and I think this is something which I mentioned um, in church on Sunday, I gave a quote on a gentleman called C.S. Lewis, a very famous Christian authority of a former time. And he put it in a very interesting way. And this will explain the points I'm going to give out later. He said that whenever a sheep is out into sea, it has to answer three questions. And what is true for a sheep, it is true for us. So listen very closely. So he says, this is C.S. Lewis. He says, whenever a ship is out into sea, it has to answer three questions. Number one, how to keep from sinking. That's fundamental. How to keep from sinking. That's what we call personal ethics. Okay. Number two, how to keep from bumping into other ships. How to keep from bumping into other ships. And that is the issue of social ethics. And the most important of all questions that the seamen have to answer before they take out their huge vessel into the sea is why it's out there in the first place. Why is the ship out there in the first place? Where is it going? Okay. What is it accomplishing? What's the point of the voyage, that trip? And that is a question or an issue of normative ethics. We'll explain these things as we move on. Normative ethics. Let me just say something on that number 3 point. Some time back, I think, and this I've mentioned a couple of times even before then, I did speak about the four principles. That's what I call them, the four principles. I like, structuring my sermons, that way. So many times I'll try to, capsulate in, a nice, tidy, way so that people can remember them, in bullet form. And the first principle I gave was the principle of consecration. And those of you who have listened, to me for the number of years I've been doing this, you know that I mention this quite often in my sharing. The the principle of consecration, and there's a word, the word connotes to consecrate is to separate, okay, and actually to separate for a specified use or objective or aim or goal or target, whatever you want to call your purpose. The principle of consecration says that the bigness of a man, and for this and for you know being fair, woman, business of a man or a woman, is determined by the cost they live for and the price they are willing to pay to achieve it. The bigness of a man, and that's not my original quote. It's been used by very many people. Sometimes it is even difficult to know who to credit it to. But the bigness of a man is determined by the cost they live for, the purpose they live for. And that's something which keeps coming up when we talk on stuff to do with ethics. The cost they live for. Jesus speaking, I believe it is chapter 18 and probably 87. I may need to confirm that for you. The book of John said something very powerful. He told the Pilate, "For this cause I came to the world." So there's a reason why he came to the world. Let me see if I can get it. It should be John 18:37. Just need to confirm that for you. John 18:37. I can use the King James. Okay. Okay. Pilate therefore said unto him, "Art thou a king then?" Jesus answered, "Thou sayest that I'm a king. To this end was I born. To this end was I born." Okay. This particular end was I born. And for this cause came I to the world. So he has destiny, which is the end, and they are synonymous, by the way, and the purpose. Purpose and destiny are synonymous. To this end was I born, and for this cause, you can call it a reason or purpose or objective, or for this cause came I into the world that I should bear witness unto the truth. So, back to the principle which I mentioned earlier, which is the principle of consecration. And that is the bigness of any man or woman is determined by the cost they live for and the price they are willing to pay to achieve it. The consecration factor. And we know from history, we know even in our own times that many people who have achieved something worth, talking about have lived a very purposeful life, very purposeful life. Um, they have been very intentional. They've been very focused. They've been very deliberate in how they have gone about, life. They've narrowed and even channeled their energies to a few things which they have felt very, very strongly are the things that dictate. Not even dictate, that's a good word. Things which um, determine or a determinant of the reason for being here. Okay, what you may call the mandate or the mission. Some will even call it they have a vision of where they want to go and how they want to achieve it. And I think it behooves all of us to make very clear, deliberate, and concerted effort to want to know, you know, ultimately, when it's all said and done, what is it that I really would want to accomplish? And especially in respect to the kingdom. And you can also, narrow it to family, relational, social, and even career or intellectual, whichever way you want to go, career, intellectual, professional. I think it's good to aim. And of course, one of the ways you can do that is by looking closely at what you are naturally talented and what comes very easy for you. Okay. Because again, those things are pointers, they are markers, they can indicate, that this is easy for you. So it definitely comes as a gifting in your life. There's something that I mentioned, I can't remember where it was. Um, Somebody once said something, and I think maybe I won't even go where I wanted to go. Let me just use this as an example. Somebody said something one time, and I thought it made a lot of sense. He said, um, one of the ways of telling purpose, and it's not a foolproof way, but at least it is a good place to start, um, is to mentally take yourself, and this could be a bit morbid, take yourself into your own funeral service. Okay, it takes some strength to do that. Okay, so kind of attend mentally, fast forward, and attend your own funeral service. Okay, maybe not the barrio one exactly, the one where people talk and they say different things, and it's like a memorial service of sorts. Okay, if you can do that, and you have a pen and a paper with you, um, there's always a time, a point at which they call, say, the spouse, if you're married. You know, if she's able to speak, or if somebody speaks on her behalf, maybe she has written something, on behalf of your spouse, either it's a she, he or a she. What would you wish your spouse would say about you? Okay, okay, from deep down, their heart. He was a loving, he was a caring, he was a dutiful husband, or she was a very committed, whatever, very spiritual, deeply committed to the things of whatever it is that you want. If you can be able to put it down there, okay, under the subheading of subtitle, of a spouse, okay, always present, an anchor of strength and inspiration to the family, um, good provider, you know, whatever it is, whatever it is, just put it down there. Come up with like 5 points. Then go to, and I'm sure they always do this, I see it all the time, somebody who knows you very well. That should be a good friend, a close friend. What you know, like, your friend speaking on behalf of other of your friends to say about you as just a friend. Okay, put it down there. Okay, I mean, this is a guy who was a man of his word. He when he put out to do something, he went ahead and did it. Made pledge. I mean, whatever it is you'd want to put there. Okay, met his end of the bargain if it came to that. Um, and the list goes on and goes on and goes on. I mean, was genuine, carried other people's hearts and aches and the pains as his own, and gave a helping hand wherever he was able, was honest, was truthful, was approachable, whatever. Just put it down there. Come up with 10 on that one. What do you like your children to say? What do you like your children to say? Okay, either they'll be able to speak, or somebody will speak on their behalf, or they will write it down. Um, what you like them to say. If you can do that, in respect to the church member who will speak, your family member who will speak, to the, is a spouse who will speak, is a neighborhood, you know, citizen who will speak. Let's say 5 different people who, represent our day-to-day connections. The moment you put down all that and you read it, you are more likely looking at the purpose, your purpose. You're more likely looking at what you're supposed to accomplish. Because death has a way of awakening in us the reality of why we are here in the first place. Okay, and that is why when people are lying, at that very crucial moment, and the time is about to, the curtains are about to be, to fall, and those people really call their bank managers to check how much money they have in their account. They go straight to the things that matter, and almost often, nearly every time they talk about, they call family, they want to talk to a priest, for example, they want to um, um, speak to their spouses, speak to their children, and say very deliberate things about how much they care or love, or and stuff like that. So death has a way of awakening certain stark realities about the things that matter in our lives. So I say that because I thought it is important, and I mentioned that number 3 point is, in my view, the most important question: why is a sheep out there in the first place? Because trust you me, I mean, I know a couple of us pretty well, and I know we are fairly, advanced in, not exactly advanced in age. We're in our middle ages, we can call it now, the 40s and moving up. And that says something. That says something. That says that the element of urgency is at play, because we don't have all the time, and we have to do what we need to do and do it well, and do it urgently. So those three things, put them to mind. The first question we said, the how to keep from sinking. Personal ethics, how to keep from bumping into other ships. Social ethics, and why is the ship out there in the first place. So if you were with me last Thursday, I only gave out the first principle, and this is what it said: that anything that refreshes you, okay, um, anything that refreshes you without distracting you from diminishing or destroying your final goal is a legitimate pleasure in your life. So basically, what we've just done is taken number three and called it principle one, okay, which is basically dealing with the issue of purpose. Anything that refreshes you, anything that you call success, you call attainment, achievement, whatever you want to call it, it refreshes you. It makes you feel a sense of self accomplishment without distracting you from diminishing or destroying your final goal. That is a legitimate pleasure in your life. Keyword here: not getting distracted from diminishing or destroying your final goal. And I don't want to go into what we mentioned last time. The example of Jesus, if I may say, it's comes to mind. Jesus would have easily taken up a new and probably more prestigious um what would you call it, spaces, or what's the better one. He would have taken new positions and opportunities, very prestigious. For example, one time when after he fed them, in John chapter 5, John chapter 6, sorry, they were looking for him to make him king. Now, that tells you something. Um, um, People want somebody who can take care of their day to day, and especially feeding. Feeding things that are very, innate, INNATE, things that are really strict, deep, deeply connected with us. But the point I want to draw and to bring out to you is that Jesus ran away, literally took or fled. You know, how many people do you think today would, you know, do that same? A lot of people. I know. It's very prestigious to be king. Okay, he knew clearly. I can't remember correctly, and my wife is here. She remind me. I think it was Billy Graham Whisper, who was supposed to be made senator or something like that. Yeah, Billy Graham, okay. The later, Billy Graham, he was told, look, you've done so well and done so much. And hey, look, we're willing to give you this political office. It's all for your taking. And he said, look, I have a higher calling. That's what he said. I have a higher calling. For him, preaching was a higher calling. Not many people will go that way. And especially this side of our world, we've seen people literally, go on a limb, try to, they hustle, they elbow, they fight, they do everything within their power to, you know, you know, move to some political office. Okay. I've always respected a gentleman by the name of, um, um, and I think I can say this, in a recording, because I respect this man tremendously. Pastor Lai is one man, I know him a little bit, just a little bit, enough to know that he's also shown tremendous restraint and tremendous a focus when it comes to his objective and purpose in ministry. And a few people who have known, also who know him, pretty well, have got fantastic stories of opportunities that he would have embraced, but he wouldn't take it because, serving God for him you know, takes the highest place, you know. And some of you here, probably Chris, would agree with me when I say that, because he's been around the bend for a while, and there have been tremendous opportunities to either enrich himself or do things which would have been otherwise would violate, you know, his spiritual and you know, his spiritual position, but he's completely taken, you know, a different position, which to me, I think it's always good to praise our own, especially when they stand out. Okay, and I think he stands out from where I sit. He stands out. He stands out. Okay. I give an example, and I think if you don't mind, I can give this example. It's an example of a tremendous, a wonderful, a great general of the Christian faith. The man was only 5 feet tall. John Wesley is the man I'm talking about. And I gave this story because I thought it's an amazing story. And just about 5 feet and a bit of change, you know. And this man changed two continents in his time. In his biography, they say he preached 40,000 sermons. And you can begin to work out what that, you know, um, how it would pan out when it's, you know, tabulated in terms of weeks and days and what have you. 40,000 sermons. That's a whole lot of sermon. Okay. Traveled a quarter of a mile on horseback. Okay. Traveled. I was making a joke in church on Sunday, and I was saying, I don't know if I would really want to have a mansion next to him in heaven. I mean, this is a man who lived at a time when things were not exactly as comfortable and efficient as they are today. But I look at his effort and his labor and his determination to serve God, and I think, oh my goodness, you know, what would you tell him? I mean, what would you tell him? What would you tell him? What are the testimonies you would give? This man has it a quarter of a mile on horseback, you know. He worked with 15 different translators and languages. His journals alone are massive tons, 600 or so books and articles. At the age of 83, he was very angry with his doctor because the doctor would not allow him to preach more than 14 times a week, which is twice a day. Angry with his doctor. That is age 83. Just think about it. Okay. At the age of 86, were found written in his journal the words, laziness is slowly creeping in. This is age 86. There's an increasing tendency to stay in bed after 5:30 in the morning. Here is a man determined to wake up at 5:30. And when he finds himself, unable to do that, maybe he continues sleeping maybe till maybe 6. He says laziness is creeping in. Okay? Just think about it. It just tells you that there are people who consecrate themselves for an objective, for a purpose. And I think it behooves, again, like I mentioned earlier, all of us to at least identify something in every area where we contact life. Either it's social, or it's economic, or it's family, or it's just professional, and say, I would like to accomplish something. I feel that this is the objective and the purpose for me in that particular place. Okay. Now, let's move to principle number 2, which is where we like to get our today message or sharing started. And that is principle 2. Any pleasure that jeopardizes, endangers, okay, put at risk, jeopardizes the sacred right of another man or woman is an illegitimate pleasure, not the least that which indignifies and dishonors others. That it must be escalated to illicit pleasure. And people take this lightly, and it is not light. It's not light. It's not light at all. Um, the Bible is clear when it comes to how we behave and act in the presence of others, and especially people who are lower in terms of, say, of economics, compared to us, people who are in terms of social cadre, maybe their names are not as big out there. Um, for whatever reason, they may not be as privileged. Jesus speaking, he says something very powerful. And sometimes I wonder why this message doesn't come out often. In fact, I'll be very honest with you, it doesn't come out quite a lot. It doesn't come out a lot. And people treat it like a little something, like a footnote somewhere. And I think it's up there with everything else. It's up there. Jesus said something. He said, look, if you offend my little ones, this my little ones, he says, it were better than a millstone, and that is one of the most hard, very hard, heavy stones. A millstone was used for grinding, you know, the corn or wheat. It doesn't break, it doesn't whatever. Um, it says, it were better than a millstone, which is a very hard stone, was tied on your neck and you are thrown into some river or some lake. Now that's powerful. The the words of Jesus, having a millstone hanged on your head, on your neck, sorry, and you throw yourself, into some lake. That is idiomatic language. And what it meant when a Jew heard Jesus say that, they understood clearly because it was idiomatic for commit suicide. It was a way of saying, look, it were better you just killed yourself because it's gonna be very, how can I put this? Before I get you, you better just take yourself out. In other words, it is so important to God because to tie somebody to tie a millstone on somebody's neck and then you go jump on a river, it's simply saying you're not going to come up. You have no chance of swimming. So it's basically saying that that person is committing suicide. All I'm trying to say is this: God is saying, look, before I catch you, before I get to you, before I let me I've run out of adjectives. Before I get to you, you better get yourself out. It is more better. Okay? It just tells you the place that God places. Okay? Those who are quote unquote insignificant nobodies that people don't care about, faceless nobodies, people who they're just faces in a crowd, you know, people without names that matter in our social, circles. Yet before God, each and every person, and especially the little ones, Jesus said that concerning the same thing concerning the Pharisees and how they mistreated people who they considered to be, not important. Okay, the same is repeated in the letters of Paul, where he was saying, if you cause one of my little ones to sin, because you feel you have liberty to do what you want to do, he says you sin so against Christ. It should be chapter 8, 12, second. I'm not so sure. I may need to just confirm it for you. Um, it's one of those beautiful verses of scripture. If you sin so against, if you sin so, okay, my wife will have to get that for me. Okay. If you sin so against my little ones, he says, it should be Second Corinthians or First Corinthians. If you sin so against these little ones, he says, I think I got it. Um, and through thy knowledge, you shall make the weak brother perish. This is First Corinthians 8. Okay. And through thy knowledge, you will make the weak brother perish, for whom Christ died. He said, but when you sin so against the brethren, and wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. So, in other words, it's not just something which we do because we feel it, we like it. There are real consequences. I want to see how the MSG renders it. Okay. Okay. This is MSG. I'm starting from verse 10. For instance, say you flaunt, like you parade, you flaunt your freedom by going to a banquet thrown in honor of idols, where the main course is meat sacrificed to idols. Isn't there great danger if someone's still struggling over this issue? Someone who looks up to you as knowledgeable and mature sees you go into that banquet, the danger is that he will become terribly confused, maybe even to the point of getting mixed up himself in what his conscience tells him is wrong. Christ gave up his life for that person. Wouldn't you at least be willing to give up going to give up going to dinner for him? Because, as you say, it doesn't really make any difference. But it does make a difference if you hurt your friend terribly, risking his eternal ruin. When you hurt your friend, you hurt Christ. Okay? And then it goes on. A free meal here and there isn't worth it at the cost of even one of those weak ones. Okay? In other words, and I think the message is very clear, and the translation just renders it just perfectly. The issue here is being cautious that we behave in ways that make it that rather does not violate, because that's a word which we use, does not violate, does not in any way put at risk the right of another person. And I was saying this, and I wish to say this again. It is possible for us to bracket at the top. We've said this before, even last Thursday. It is possible to bracket at the top. It is possible for all of us to do well. My success must not come at the expense of another. God has given us enough resources, and I think this needs to be mentioned many times. I know we've said it before, but I need to say it again and again. Okay? There is enough for us all. And I think I'm saying it on Thursday, there is enough for everybody's need, but there is not enough for everyone's greed. Okay? Okay? So any pleasure that jeopardizes the sacred right of another man or woman is an illegitimate pleasure. So our success should not come at the expense of other people being put down and shunned and all that and all that. And again, better put also would be, let's be very careful, and especially those of us who have the privilege of Christian ministry, let's be very careful that and respectful of what belongs to another. I think there's a way in which present day Christianity and people wanting to show spiritual authority, you can't really tell anymore where your private life starts and where church life ends. You really can't tell. People's time, people's talent, people's resources, people, whatever you want to call it, it's so heavily abused and taken for granted. I mean, there's not even as much as the courtesy of asking or requesting, um, and especially again from us who are in Christian ministry proper. Spiritual authority doesn't mean running roughshod on people's time and and what belongs to them, including their children, their spouses, their homes, their cars, their money. There has to be certain aspects of respectability that must be brought into play. I don't hear this a lot. Let me tell you the truth. I don't hear this a lot, and I think it's unfortunate. A lot of people are living with a lot of deep heart. I mean, talk to people. People are living with deep hearts, and most of it from the pulpit, sadly. The excesses and sometimes that come by way of exercising authority, people are living with a lot of hurt. Sadly, sadly, we need to make sure that our pleasure or anything that we call success or whatever it is we call our enjoyment does not jeopardize the sacred right of another man or woman. We need to come up with very basic principles and laws when it comes to dealing with each other. Okay? It's each other. Very simple things like reciprocity. Reciprocity. Somebody does something good to you, just reciprocate. Um, Things like courtesy. These are just good manners, just courtesy. May I please kindly you use the use of courteous words, um, being respectful, being respectful, mutuality. Okay, if somebody has moved one way, let's meet halfway. Let it be mutual cooperation. It cannot be that people just do everything, we do nothing. We have to meet somewhere. Mutuality, respect, civility, just being civil. It doesn't break a bone to talk to somebody in a civil way and not be callous and not be brash and not be insultious. It doesn't just break a bone just to say I disagree, but do it in a way which is, you know, you know, which is civil, which is civil. Okay, decorum, propriety in an orderly way. All these things need to begin to have expression. And again, I say this because sometimes it is human nature to want to look down on people who are of a certain, say, economic cadre, or we we segment them, somewhere down there because they don't have a standing in society or whatever it is, which I think it is it is so wrong. Not I think, I know it is so wrong and should never happen. Especially those we need we need to be even much more, you know, um, we need to show even greater kindness to. Okay, people who cannot hurt you, people who cannot help you. You know what I'm saying? People who can't hurt you. It's not like if you don't do it, they're going to, you know. And people who cannot help you because maybe they don't even have it to help you, you know. And still you show absolute decorum and great, propriety, and you show great honor and respect and very courteous words. I mean, I think that needs to be said more. Authority, spiritual authority, is not being crass. You know what crass is? Just being insultious and throwing expletives and being very patronizing, um, and almost behaving like a prefect. Like a self-appointed prefect. No, 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 no. I think Christ gave us perfect example when he came, and we see it in his life. Perfect example. He treated people with absolute dignity. And I think that need to be, brought to play in our own lives. Okay. Again, I want to repeat, we don't hear this often. Sadly, we need to hear it a little bit more. Our Pentecostal circles, and I'm afraid to say, is replete with the use of spiritual authority being harsh and kind, and talking down and putting down, and etc, which should never be the case. Okay. So the number 3 point, which is the final point, is any pleasure, however good, if not kept in balance, will distort reality and destroy appetite. Okay. Any pleasure, anything that you call success, you know however good, if not kept in balance, will distort reality. We can speak for hours on that alone. Um, I think by now, I want to believe by now, we all know that balance is a key in life. That the Christian is not only a spirit, the Christian has a body, the Christian has a family, the Christian has a mother or a father, or a brother, or a sister, or is a neighbor, or whatever it is, or is a parent. Um, he has a social life, has a family life, has an economic life, because trust you me, we do need the economics. Um, Growing up in Christianity for the longest time, there were challenges, especially on my part, because spiritual development was highlighted and emphasized at the expense of everything else. You almost got that feeling like there's no other life, okay, and that any other life, was sinful or wrong or was carnal or worldly. At least that's how I felt, in the mid 80s when I got saved, and I would go to many, many places to try and grow myself in the Christian faith. It took me a while before I began realizing that the Bible places equal, just as much. Of course, the spiritual is a foundation, and we need to start with foundations. And it is primal, and it is elementary. I mean, when I mean elementary, I mean it is a very basic, it's a foundational issue. Let me use the word primal, not even elementary. Um, um, but the truth again is that the Christian relates with life on other fronts and you know, other, facets. This took me a while, and I think the moment I began realizing it, life became beautiful, and I began to see all those many, many, many things in the Bible that even speaks to as mundane things as my own personal health. You know, I mean, the Bible would even say things like physical exercise profits a little. Okay, and the profit is profit, either it's little or much, it's still profit. You can, you know what I'm saying? Um, I mean, I noticed the Bible went into great length to tell us how to, for example, um, relate. I was reading a quote the other day, and this person was saying something to the effect that the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. And I agree. And I agree. Totally agree. Totally agree. The quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. The other day we were saying it somewhere that people don't leave jobs, as it were. People leave people. People leave good jobs with well-paying jobs. But if the environment is toxic and indignifying and demeaning and belittling and whatever it is, people leave and work and stay without a job. People don't leave jobs, as it were. People leave people. People leave people you know and that just tells you that there are many other things that affect us apart from the spiritual, and hence the need for us who are in spiritual authority, and we do ministry and speak to people on a regular basis, to cast our nets wide, if you can call it that way, and rope in and bring in as many issues as possible in our sharing. Cast our nets wide. We should not be fishing in a little pond. This is a big lake, and there's so much in this big lake. Okay. God is more than just our spirituality. And that is important. That cannot be gainsaid. That can never be understated. But equally true, God is for our social, God is for our, emotional, our psychological, our intellectual, all those things, our familial, our, whichever way you want to go. You want to go. They all are important. They all are important. And I will be encouraging us, especially at this particular time, um, to strive to live in moderation. That's what I mean, balance. In moderation. Not everything will be answered by a spiritual answer or through a spiritual lens. Not everything. Some things will require just some counseling, some therapy. I tell you, that's the truth. Some things just require a doctor, you know, and that's it. That's it. We all know people who, and there are stories that came up the other day, not too long ago, of, some people, I think, who are fasting and died. And I think it was brought into the news, or somebody who passed on, and they would not eat until they passed on. Having said that, we are starting our biannual um, July fast, 21-day fast coming week. And we have to do everything in moderation. There are some who are a little bit adept than others, and who will be very careful that what is supposed to be an exercise to build our faith does not become, a risk to our health. Okay, those who are able, I mean, some of us have been doing this for a while. They're able to go about it fairly easily. Other people are just starting out, and so we just have to make sure that everything is done in moderation. Okay, even as we grow, because people didn't start there. Okay, so I digress. So what I was saying is that you must have seen that story 2 weeks ago or a week ago in the dailies, and because everything has to be done in moderation. Even spiritual activity has to be done in moderation. These bodies need to be nourished by food, you know, you know, so that when we step out to do whatever we have to do, we come back again and we nourish our body, we nourish our bodies. Striving to live in moderation. We can't be all out with people. We can't be all out with people. As good as that is, social is good. But we also need time alone, time by ourselves. Part of why I take walks, which I do on a daily basis, I really, don't take a walk, for a couple of hours. I would always step out and just take a walk. Um, I love seeing new things. I mean, I can probably hit the gym and probably run on a treadmill. Um, I like nature. I like connecting with nature. I like just seeing people, seeing things, breathing the fresh air, walking into new places I haven't been. I'm simply saying sometimes you need your time out. Think your own thoughts rather. Taste your own mind. Meditate, reflect, think. It is important. It gives you a lot of time to look at things in a very unique way when you know without the hustle and bustle of people around you. Okay, is that a good way to put it? Without the noises of people around you and the hustles and bustles of life. So moments of quiet meditation and reflection, very important. It's moderation. Okay, the social and the private. Yeah, that moderation. That moderation. Having said that, we all need to work towards financial freedom. We all need to think about it heavily, and think about how we can be able to up our economics. It is important because we know we do need finances to accomplish certain things. So all I'm trying to say is that everything that and every aspect we contact life is important. Is important, and we need to strive to attain whatever it is we need to attain in those dimensions. As a family man, I need to spend time with my family. I really do, I tell you. Um, I got a lot of flack, I'll be honest with you, and I want to finish now. Because some of you who know me a little well know that we used to do lunch hour meetings for a very long time. Okay. So we began lunch hour meetings from 85, 86, thereabout. I think it was 85. And yeah, 85. And this carried on. I cleared school and then used to do lunch hour and evening meetings every day. Then we had lunch hour meetings in town, much later on. That carried on till after I got married and carried on. And then there used to be at least minimally 2 meetings every day. But when I got married, I remember I quickly noticed that something needed to change. One, I'd just gotten married, had this new bride at home, and we're trying to get our lives together so that we can move this, in this one direction. And so I would have a lunch hour meeting, and then I would have an evening meeting. Those of you who remember at Eureka, and the meeting would end, say, at about 8 or 9, and then talk to people. By the time you move your equipments and clear with everybody, it's pretty late. I remember the bulk of the time I used to take the last bus. By then there used to be KBS buses, and they were strictly on schedule, and I had to take the last bus. If I missed that, I mean that would be problem galore, and there were no mobile phones then. So So that meant I'll be leaving at about 10, 10, 15, thereabout, if I recall my, you know, my memory serves me right. And then I'll be home pretty late, because we live the sides of, a bit far away from town. Um, so I quickly noticed, without anybody telling me, that my family life was suffering because of my spiritual or ministry life. And I had to be very bold and simply say, this is as much important as the other. And so what we agreed is that we're removing the evening meetings. In fact, if I remember correctly, maybe I need to be more accurate here. We had Monday, Wednesday, Thursday lunch hour meetings. I think that's a more accurate position. We had Monday, Wednesday, Friday lunch hour meetings. So what we did, what we agreed, the Tuesday and Thursday, which were Eureka, the 2 days which didn't have lunch hours, and then there were other days which used to go to Jericho Social Hall and Jericho Lumumba, and I can't remember anywhere else. Somewhere else used to go, but generally there were evening meetings every day, different places. But lunch hours were Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So what we agreed, and I told the people, I mean, just one off, very clearly, I just came and said, look, no more evening meetings, all of them gone, done, completely done. And I said, I'm married, man. I've got to take care of, I've got to take care of my family, my new, relationship. And we added the lunch hours, the Tuesday and Thursday were now added so that we had lunch hours from Monday to Friday, and then we had a Sunday meeting. We said, if you're coming for Steve Munga meetings, those are the days you're going to come for the meetings and the time you're going to come for the meetings. Okay? No evening meetings. And we've maintained that throughout. And people are saying, of course, you expect people to say things, because the meetings were fairly, popular with many, 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 many people. But I thought, despite the fact that the meetings were popular with many people in the evening, and loads of people showed up, and there was clear market, impact, I felt, I also needed to take care of business on the other side. So the point I'm trying to put again here is, all this is important, people. All this is important. And I found myself, moving forward, chopping off this and chopping off that, and balancing it with this and balancing it that, so that at least you're able to meet all your objectives. Okay, so any pleasure, however good, if not kept in balance, will distort reality. Balance it out. Balance it out. All those duties and obligations, balance them out and give them the requisite time and resource that is required. Okay, so the first principle was dealing with purpose. The second principle was dealing with how our choices affect others. And the third one is dealing with living in moderation. Okay, so again, going back to personal ethics, social ethics, normative ethics. I think I'll stop there. So what we'll do next Thursday, so we'll look at different examples of people like Solomon, people like um, I've got a lot of examples here, and how they went about these three issues. Okay, because there are people who are good at one thing and not very good on another, and they suffered as a result, and we would want to see how some of these things clearly relate to us by using examples that we can relate with from the Bible. I have Rehoboam, I have Jeroboam, I have David, I have Solomon, I have got a number of people here who would like to use as examples of you know, you personalities who either excelled in one, maybe failed in another, or maybe excelled in all. We'll have a look at them, and maybe we can even make it an interactive session, and we do it next Thursday. Okay. Time up, guys. God bless you. Thank you for listening in. I will do the second and third principle for our today Bible study WhatsApp group, so that at least we can finish up. I think we did number one. We can do two and three, and then you'll be able to have this thing, in memory. Thank you, guys. God bless you.